my question, very short, very sweet. What will be the reaction from Trump if he loses again, considering what happened last time?
Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas UK. Does this depend on... I mean, let's assume that he's lost. I mean, I'm not making that assumption, but for the purposes of the question, let's assume he loses. Does it matter if he loses overwhelmingly, so what his reaction might be, or if it is quite narrow?
So that's a great question. And one of the things I've been talking about is obviously I want him to win, right? I am biased. But if he doesn't win, I hope he loses by a landslide. So it is decisive. But I think what's created here is not just Trump, but it's the whole movement he's created. I think we've moved away from a party being this sort of uniparty kind of neocons to this much more America First party, which you're seeing, you know, with the involvement of J.D. Vance, with obviously some former Democrats, Bobby Kennedy Jr., former Democrat royalty, Tulsi Gabbard, also a former Democrat, Elon Musk, one of the great inventors. So it's a whole new Republican Party. And I think if he loses, he will pass the mantle on to this new generation of Republicans.
You say it's obvious that you want him to win. Is it obvious? Because I know quite a few Republicans who don't want him to win.
So I believe that I did say I wanted him to win, and I am here as a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas. So I just didn't want to hide my bias, shall we say.
I think
now it's obvious.
We can understand that. John Scardino, you obviously have a bias in the other direction. What do you say to James's question?
Well, I think it's clear that if we look at 2020, Trump will probably come out on the election night by about 9 p.m. if he waits that long and claim victory, no matter what the results are. It usually takes several days after the election to actually have a formal response when everything's been properly tallied, which was the case in 2020. It took about 4 days after Election Day before Biden was officially declared. Now, obviously, since then, Trump has claimed almost every single day since 2020 that he didn't lose that. So I expect no matter what the results, that the candidate himself will probably say that he won. But I will be surprised to see if there's a great movement to try to deny that.
Even if he loses by a considerable margin. I mean, there will be people who will not accept that he's lost, come what may, even if it could be. I mean, I don't think it will be a landslide, but if it were a landslide, there will still be people saying, "Oh, well, it's the mainstream media's fault, or the ballot machines were all wrong, or whatever." There will always be some excuse, won't there?
He has been on a campaign ever since 2020, ever since he lost in 2020, to deny the results of that election and to say that he did in fact win, and he has been on this drumbeat ever since then. So I can see how there are some followers out there who believe that, and certainly there were even lawyers who took up the cause and tried to claim that that election was not fairly won, and they have all been either sanctioned or disbarred in one way or another. Rudy Giuliani, his own lawyer, has been prevented from practicing law anymore in the District of Columbia. Has faced a very, very heavy multi-million-dollar fine for the lies and
what a difference 20 years make, eh? Wasn't he known as America's mayor after 9/11? And he could be a totally different person.
Took the wrong turn somewhere.
Kim Darroch.
I think it would be great if there is a landslide, or in any circumstances, if Trump were to say gracefully that he accepted defeat. It seems a real stretch to me to imagine that, not least because on the campaign trail he said things which have come close to implying that the only legal and fair election is one he wins. So it's quite a stretch to think that he would actually accept defeat. And I think whatever he says almost is quite likely that there are going to be demonstrations and some unrest on the streets, just because people are, and this is such a pivotal election, it's so close and people are so wound up about it. So you have to worry about security in American cities in the immediate aftermath of a Trump defeat. But, let's see how it unfolds.
Zoe Strimpel.
Well, I think Jennifer got the closest to it, which is that Trump is only one part of this, and if he loses, and obviously if it's a close call, then it's going to be even more extreme. But he has quite the kind of fan base and quite the people who are there kind of as his sort of armies, so to speak. And one of them, as you mentioned, Elon Musk, runs this enormous social media platform. So I think we can expect to see things getting really out of control, but not necessarily because of Trump himself, but because of what will happen among his supporters. I mean, I think we have to remember that there's been 4 years since the so-called stolen election, in which the internet has been interneting away, conspiracy theories have been conspiracying away. There are a lot of weapons in America. We've seen various kinds of unrest in the last 4 to 8 years that you just didn't. I don't recall seeing in the obviously previously America has a history of unrest, but in my childhood the kinds of things that have sent people to the street are just completely novel. So I'm actually quite frightened of a close call, and as I say, it's because of the people that will be mobilized as much as Trump.
If I could just follow up on that, it's one of the things I think that is a factor somewhat countering that idea is, a lot of the people that were involved in the denial of the results of 2020 have faced severe punishments. I mean, the protesters who attacked the Capitol, a lot of them are serving serious prison time. The lawyers that I mentioned to you who carried forward the claims of fraud and were shown to have been lying, they've been disbarred and they've been sanctioned by professional bodies and prevented from practicing what they were trained to do. So, people see these punishments, and I think it has had something of a dampening effect. There may be protests, but I'm hoping that they will be a little bit more civil and peaceful.
Kim, you became ambassador, I think, January 2016, so you saw the whole campaign going up to November 2016. What differences do you notice in candidate Trump from then and candidate Trump this time?
He was a phenomenon in those days because he had a huge amount of energy. He had never served a day in any public office, and he was running for the most powerful office on the planet. He was an extraordinary campaign. He just destroyed the rest of the Republican primary field very quickly within 2 or 3 months, and they thought it was one of the strongest fields that ever assembled. And I remember being at a...
There's like 20 of them, weren't there?
Yeah, and I remember being at a lunch with Washington political pundits in about February 2016, and they said, Trump, it's never going to happen. He's never going to be the nominee, but isn't he doing well at the moment? Isn't that interesting? So a lot of people were very wrong about Donald Trump in 2016, and he fought an extraordinary campaign. I'm not a fan, but you have to say it was extraordinary to come from nowhere and to win the way he did. I think he then was a pretty unsuccessful president. That's why he lost in 2020. But as a campaigner, he was a force of nature, and he basically blew Hillary Clinton away.
And what differences do you notice now?
I think now, look, it's 8 years on, Ian, and I don't think he's the man he was then. And, he rambles on, and, his speeches have become increasingly disconnected and sort of streams of consciousness. He doesn't look like he has the energy that he had in 2016. He looks older. His voice is a little bit weaker. He still has a magnetism that is fairly unique amongst politicians, but he shows his age, not as much as Joe Biden did, but he shows his age, I think.
I think the biggest difference in the campaigns is this one is a lot more positive. A lot of the last one, yes.
I must have missed that.
Have you seen him in McDonald's? Have you seen him in the garbage truck? Have you seen him just out there talking to the average people?
I saw him struggling to get into the garbage truck.
Okay, fine. That's the one thing about the media is we all see different clips, right? So hopefully you've got to be watching things that you disagree with, that you agree with, so we don't live in an echo chamber. But there is no doubt that this time around he didn't expect, I think you just said that, that other people didn't expect him to win. He didn't expect to win in 2016, so he wasn't organized. This time he is. He's got a great team behind him. He's taking advice from the right people. And I'm sorry, but the campaign it's funny.
So
He's likable.
Does he take advice, really?
Yeah, I think he does. And one of the great things about him is he's not taking advice necessarily from the so-called experts, which I would argue have failed us greatly over the last 4 years, these experts and institutions. But he will take advice. J.D. Vance, his vice president pick, tells this great story on Joe Rogan where he says, Donald Trump was asking one of the caddies at the golf course or one of the doormen at one of his hotels, hey, who do you think I should pick? And that's what this is all about. It's this realignment of politics that we're having in the United States right now, where the Republican Party it's a populist movement versus the sort of old school forever war, big institutions control. And the other thing is censorship. It's a huge deal this time around. We know, thanks to the Twitter files being revealed, that the 2020 election was one of the most censored events in modern history. We know whether it's the Hunter Biden laptop, whether it was the Russia hoax, all of these things are now proven to be untrue. Would they have swung the election in Trump's favor? I don't know. But you can't say that that's not interference in some way. And this time we don't have that.
Now, Alan has what I think is a compliment.
Okay.
He says, congratulations, you've got Joan Rivers on the show.
Oh.
When he said that, I think there is a similarity in your voice and Joan
really?
Rivers. Yeah.
I think she's fantastic. Well, she was fantastic.
Well, thank goodness you took it as a compliment.
Yeah, no, I do. Thank you so much. No, I think she was quite funny and she's a character, so thank you for that.
Well, we'll have more from Joan in just a moment with some more questions. 0345 6060 973.